We're good? Okay, so we're going to take attendance. Kay Young.
Here.
David Cunningham. Julia Flaherty. Not present. Peter Herbst. Not present. Justine Wong. Not present. Erin Joyce. Present. Shelley North. Not present. Elizabeth Page. Not present. Joseph Reynolds.
Present.
And Raina Rubin. Present. Great. Okay, so the first thing on the agenda this evening is member and staff announcements. Do we have any announcements, Connor?
Just to follow up from the last meeting, we're working with Beld on having inserts submitted to the billing, the paper billing. We're just looking at the costs and things as such. In addition, Beld is putting out monthly newsletters. We have asked for a small portion of their newsletter. That newsletter is virtual. It gets emailed out. That is going to be hyperlinked to the survey, to the meeting in the box, and the master plan website. In addition to contact information being provided, we are working with the mayor's office on a robocall. I know that was brought up last time, using the reverse 911 technology. In addition, we are trying to attend the farmers market. We've posted flyers all throughout the town buildings. They're at DPW, Pond Street, Town Hall, some of the schools, and other town health facilities as well. We've encouraged multiple departments to post them. We asked the golf course to have the posting visible, so that way when people come up and they, come to clean their carts or the pro shop, things like that, the survey's there, they can take the QR code or they can take the slip with them. We've been encouraging to pass out. We have slips, we try to leave them everywhere. We're working with the town clerk on the exit line from early voting, so that way there'll be a stack of them and they can just pick it up and walk out with them.
Great. That brings me to a member announcement. We have a Google Sheet. I don't know if you've all saw the link to the Google Sheet that was sent out after last meeting. Were you all able to get into the Google Sheet? Okay, so there's some great ideas that everyone had about outreach. So if you could sign up for some of the ideas that you want to institute. If you have another great idea, there is nothing stopping you from adding it to the list and signing up for it. So please do that, and then we can continue with the outreach. Liz, Kay, and I, and Justine are going to the senior center, and we're doing a meeting in the box, and we're going to try to get surveys collected, although the director there is not convinced we're going to be able to get that group in a survey, but we're going to do the meeting in the box, and Justine's doing one with the Asian outreach group as part of the senior center. So we have those lined up, so that's great. September 9th. Okay, I think we can move on to Delaney.
Had to take the long way around the TV. All right. So before I get into the presentation, I do have a quick announcement that I need to make. I am actually going to be leaving JM Goldson, so this is going to be my last meeting with you all. It has been a pleasure working with you all, and I really do mean that. Braintree is a really special place, and I'm honored to have been able to work on this project with you, and it's been a really good time. I want you to know that I am leaving you in excellent hands. So far in this project, Jen has had more of an advisory role overseeing everything while I've been handling the project management, and she's just going to come in and handle the project management as well as her other duties. And she is going to be supported by Alana. You might notice that this is not Jen, this is my colleague Alana. She is amazing and has been working on the project behind the scenes for a while now, working particularly on a bunch of the engagement stuff, which is why she's here tonight. She's going to present a lot of the progress that you've made for the engagement and the survey and everything. And I'll let her introduce herself when she comes up for that portion of the presentation. But I just wanted to let you all know about that. before I got into the presentation.
Thank
So,
you so much. On behalf of
Thank
us all
you.
for all of your hard work. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's been really great. All right. So before I hand the presentation over to Alana, I will go over the project schedule, which I know you're all familiar with, but it's just good to start on the same page. We are right here. We are going to be reviewing the engagement process and similar to last time, just going over the progress for the survey, meeting in a box, all that kind of stuff, and looking at how we can further outreach in the coming months. Next month, we will close the summer engagement, but I do want to note that we are extending the meeting in a box through the second community forum in October. So that gives you all an opportunity to schedule more meetings, which will be awesome. Any more input we can get is great, so we're excited about that. And we'll have one more meeting in between to go over last minute, other engagement results, how to get those last meetings scheduled, and preparing for the forum. In November, we'll be discussing the vision and goals, which we'll be presenting at that forum, and then revising and that whole process. And then putting together the draft vision and goals report in December to wrap up phase 2. So do you have any questions on the schedule or anything? All right, then I'm going to hand it over to Alana, who will also need to take the long way around the TV.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit more about myself so you know who you'll be working with now. My name is Alana Zabar. I grew up in Swampscott, Massachusetts on the North Shore. I got my planning degree from the University of New Hampshire, where I studied community and environmental planning, but I also had a dual major in sustainability and a minor in political science. I then went on to get my Master's of Education in Community Engagement from Merrimack College. I've spent the last year working with the North Shore Community Development Coalition in Salem, working in their Point neighborhood, which is a low-income immigrant neighborhood, essentially just trying to bridge the gap between that neighborhood and the rest of the community. And I just started working for J.M. Goldson in the end of June. It's been a wonderful couple of months, and I have been sort of working on behind the scenes, as Delaney mentioned, on your engagement, specifically your survey. So I feel very confident in presenting the results so far, just so you know. Alrighty, so let's get into it. So far for engagement, we did host focus groups earlier in this process where so we had 36 people participate in the focus groups. At this point, I updated these numbers around noon today, so there may be a little bit of a difference there, but we had 18 suggestions on the crowd map. We had 2 meeting in a box responses, but we did just receive 2 more, so I'm excited to get into that. So now we have 4 meeting in a boxes total, and we've had 426 responses on the long survey and 0 responses on the short survey, for a total of 491 people engaged in this process so far. So as you know, we have the crowd map linked on the master plan website, which is open until September 6th, and 9 total people have engaged. I did set this up so we could take a look at it. We can skip that for now. But just so you know, we've had 9 total people engaged so far. And the meeting in a box is open until October 17th, and it's also available in simplified Chinese on the website now, so hopefully that will present opportunities for more of the Asian population to participate. And of those 2 meetings that we had earlier, it was for a total of 11 people who had participated. And onto the survey. So the survey is open until September 9th. It's also available in simplified Chinese. Both the long version and the short version have been translated. 426 people have engaged so far. I know earlier in this process, I had heard, a lofty goal of about 1,000 responses, and I still think that's really possible in this community. And now I'm just going to go through some opportunities to increase representation. At the end of the survey, we do ask demographic questions, and so something I have been doing has been comparing the percentage of people who mark a certain demographic as compared to the percentage in Braintree's total population. So you'll see, I'm going to go through all of those demographics and the little charts. For every single chart, the orange is the percentage of people who have taken the survey that identify with that particular demographic, and the blue is the percentage of the total population. And for each one, the first bullet point will tell you what the total population is based on. For most of it is the 2020 American Community Survey, but there are a few that are based on the 2020 census as well. So for age, 247 people answered this question, and folks were more likely to be between 35 and 74. The younger population and the older population are underrepresented by this survey. And I know that Jen had talked about opportunities to outreach, and on that spreadsheet there are sort of crafted ideas in terms of reaching these underrepresented populations. But I think here an opportunity is definitely sort of high school students who are potentially getting involved in their civics classes, learning about civic engagement for the first time. This is a really cool way for them to get involved because it's their own home community, as compared to thinking, more statewide or nationally. They might not be as confident in their ability to contribute, but in the community that they've lived in, they might have really great ideas for what they'd like to see, or, what they don't see in their community. In terms of gender, we had 246 total people answer this question. We found that women are more likely to be taking the survey than men. So there's an opportunity here. Oftentimes men tend to dominate in spaces like this, and so it is intriguing to see that women are more likely to take this survey. Something else that I would point out is that there is a self-describe option, and it's largely being used for commentary versus a self-description. Just so you all know, I do show what percentage has used that option, but it's more so just for commentary. In terms of educational attainment, 249 people answered this question, and people who have higher educational attainment are more likely to be taking this survey. In terms of kind of remedying this, a lot of that will come with more age representation. If more younger folks are taking it, they're less likely to have higher educational attainment just by nature, and so that's one way that we can work to remedy and kind of even out this representation here. In terms of employment status, 252 people answered this question, and this is actually the one demographic where the survey respondents are pretty close to the population. I think it's a matter of 1% difference, so this is a really great representation. You will note that looking at the math, these numbers don't all add up. That is because the way that the data is presented for the community is who's in the labor force and who's not in the labor force, and based on the descriptions in the survey, are you unemployed but looking for work, or unemployed and not looking for work, puts you in a different pool for the American Community Survey. So just so you understand why that doesn't add up to 100. I know I'm one of those people who said, those numbers aren't adding up, so I just wanted to make sure we explained that. In terms of household income, folks who have higher income are more likely to take this survey. 251 people answered this, which is about half of the total survey responses in general, but also 14% prefer not to answer, which is totally okay, but it does skew the data because we don't know what income bracket they fall in. In terms of race, 250 people responded to this question, with white people being the most likely to take the survey. Given Braintree's rich Asian population, I would like to see more Asian representation in this survey. We're at about 6% for about 14% of the community. Again, this was another option with a self-describe, where again, it was used mostly for commentary versus self-description of race. In terms of ethnicity, this is another demographic that's pretty much accurate representation for whether or not folks identify as Hispanic or not. In terms of their tenure, 253 people answered this question, and we found that homeowners are more likely to be taking this survey. About 5% of respondents to the survey are renters, with 26% of the town being renters. So we'd like to see more renter representation, which I know a few of the things on the outreach plan are to target sort of apartment complexes, the housing authority, things of that nature as well. In terms of affiliation, 424 people answered this question, and 408 of those people were residents. And so I know there's been questions, do we want non-residents taking this survey? And I think that's a really important question to consider when you think about, school teachers and people in your police and fire force who may not live in Braintree. They might have really great observations to contribute in terms of planning. Maybe there's a reason that they can't live in Braintree, they really want to, but there's something that's holding them back, or there's something about their home community that they really would love to see in Braintree. And so while I'm not suggesting that we go to every person who doesn't live in Braintree and say, take our survey, it is a really great opportunity to have the survey sort of enhanced by people who are really ingrained in the Braintree community, but don't live here. People like business owners, and just folks who live in the who work in the community but might not live here. In terms of folks who have held municipal office or currently are holding municipal office, 392 people responded, and 350 of those folks have never held office in Braintree. And this is on the flip side of what I just said about folks who are living here and not living here. This is an opportunity for people who might have a little bit more knowledge on the processes to contribute. So, maybe they know why something hasn't changed, or they knew about this plan 10 years ago that they'd really like to see revisited. And so this is another opportunity to reach people who might just have a little bit more knowledge about one particular topic. And then the length of time associated with the town. So 253 people answered this question, and folks are most likely, in the 6 to 50 years, with the least amount of representation in folks who have lived in town for less than 5 years or more than 50 years. And I think that those particular sort of demographics would be interesting to get a better understanding of what's currently bringing people to town. The new folks who have just moved here, what brought them to town, or folks who have been here for 50 years, what is keeping you in this town? What are the great things about Braintree? Or for folks who have been here for more than 50 years, what have you seen go well? What have you seen not go so well? What would you like to see? So I think that's a really unique opportunity. Unfortunately, there's not a particular way to target folks based on how long they've lived in town, right? There's no checkbox when you sign up for a listserv or anything like that, but just something in case you happen to know someone who's been here for a long time, or potentially, real estate agent partnership, things of that nature to reach newer folks. And then the question is really, where do we go from here? And so at the end of the day, any engagement is good engagement. We would really hope to see more engagement. I think that Braintree can do it. In this community, you have I think the census puts you at about 39,000 people, and so 400 people taking that survey is less than 1% of your community taking the survey. So I think if you think about who do you have in your own networks and who do they have in their networks, and suddenly, remember when COVID started and they would draw the patient zero maps and you would go off like that? That's how I'm envisioning this, Who do you have in your network? How do they get connected? Looking around, so only 3 people under the age of 18 have taken the survey, and potentially in this room, we are connected to more than 3 people under the age of 18. So how do we get into those networks? So that's just something that I want to leave you with, but that's the whole presentation. I think you're doing a great job, and you got a month left, and I find that people are more willing to engage when there's a deadline that's coming up, because, you think about a survey, you say, oh, I have a month to do that, I'll take it, whatever, and then you forget about it. But now we're kind of in that crunch time, which I think will encourage more people to take it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone's thinking about anything.
Erin, I don't know who raised first.
Presentation. I have hosted 2 meetings in a box, and my son has taken the survey. I'm very interested in outreach to younger, like elementary, middle school, high school. I think at the last meeting I had asked if there was anything specifically targeted to the younger kids, because I've been hoping to spend some time early on in September engaging my elementary school in this process. So I guess my question is, like when my 12-year-old was taking the survey, it took him a very, very long time, and I think he felt like it was hard for him to respond. So is there a tool, or is it better to do more of like a meeting in a box with younger kids, like to sort of do that? And I just wanted to ask also, what was the final date on the survey, because I didn't write that down.
Yes, the final date on the survey is September 9th.
Okay.
Just to answer that question quickly. I definitely think a meeting in a box is a great tool, especially younger kids who maybe aren't as quick at typing or need some more processing time. A lot of times we kind of underestimate children and what they notice about what's going on around them. And I think a meeting in a box, giving them a map and saying, this is your community, they might not understand, the roads and the maps, but if you point out kind of major players, this is your school, this is the playground we go to, what do you like about that playground? What would you like to see added? I think kids have a really valuable responses in that process, especially if we're looking 10 years in the future. A 10-year-old is going to be 20 in 10 years, and so they might have much different needs in that point. So I definitely think meeting in a box is an option. The short survey, facilitated if you're working one-on-one with an elementary school kid, might be an option as well, and then recording what they're saying.
Okay. Is the short survey live and being used? I don't think I've seen a version of the short survey, so I just might not.
Oh, no. Oh,
Thanks. We created the short survey, and I know that Jennifer was reviewing it. So the link is live.
Okay, good.
We weren't going to post it on the website just because it's very similar to the long survey, and we didn't want to confuse people by saying, hey, here's two different links to very similar surveys and like overwhelm people with links. So we wanted to have each of you have access to that link, and then use it how you see fit with anyone who might not be comfortable with the longer survey. So that would be a great application of that, but we should make sure that you have the link.
Yeah, and I think just when I did the meeting in a box, there wasn't really a place on that to collect demographics, which is the same as the survey. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, is it worth tracking demographics for I guess, let's say a bunch of people did the short survey or did the meeting in a box for students, because it felt better placed, would you still be collecting that demographic information? Or is it worth doing that?
So we are not collecting demographic information for meeting in a box per se. I mean, if you feel it would enrich the answers, you're more than welcome to provide us with that information. The reason I think that we have opportunities where you do collect that information, where you don't, is for folks to sort of come outside of their identities in their participation. Meeting in a box is very, this is a map of my town, this is what I think, where the survey questions are a little bit more lifestyle based. And so it's helpful to have a wide range of lifestyles in that space.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And Joe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just on the issue of, I guess, the underwhelming or somewhat disappointing responses, the 1% of 39,000 people in our community to the surveys, and I'll stick just to the surveys. So we've started those surveys, and that was part of, if my memory serves me correctly, is our summer engagement tools, right? And in hindsight a little bit, or as here we are with a temperature check with less than a month to go, would you think that the summer months were perhaps not the best time? And if you could explain to me a little bit about the milestones and the timelines of the full length of this initiative, and is it something similar perhaps other communities may have also experienced?
Yeah, I'm happy to weigh in on the part of that. I did come into this process when you had already started.
Understood.
And so,
You're a little disadvantaged, yes.
Perhaps Delaney can also throw in information as she sees fit, whatever you feel comfortable
Great.
sharing. But in general, I don't think that having a survey in the summer is a bad idea. So we'll start there. I don't
Okay.
think that people are like less engaged in the summer. I do think that in the fall is when things sort of pick up. And so perhaps we might see more engagement towards that end of the summer. But in my opinion, people have less to do in the summer, and so they have more of a chance to take the survey, right? In my head, there isn't a meeting every single night, perhaps, that they need to bring their kids to, or after school practice, things of that nature. And so they might have, a second to sit down and take the survey. So I think there's definitely an asset. I think there's pros and cons to whenever you take it. We do put it in the earlier kind of portion of the long master plan process. That way it can inform our the next steps. It does inform that, and so it does unfortunately have to be sort of in that earlier aspect of it. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, Alana, you covered that perfectly. I'll say, similar to what you were just saying, the survey is an instrumental part of developing the vision and goals.
I would agree.
That is, why it's happening right now. And I will say we purposely put the second community forum in October and not over the summer. That could have been held, earlier in the phase, but we wanted to push it into the fall so that there would be more opportunity for people to be in town and attending and everything. So that's a deliberate thing that we did for that. But, we've had other communities for like the master plan process. We had the survey over the summer, and it went pretty well. I think the idea is, there's a lot of events going on over the summer where we can go and have people spreading the word about the survey and the engagement tools and everything to get the community involved and everything. And you've still got plenty of time. I think you can hit the goals. I'm not worried about it.
Okay, well, thanks. I do appreciate that, and this is not a criticism. I don't want you to take it as such. It's just that I am personally a little disappointed in the community's level of engagement, I guess, on that survey. Data collection is extremely important for us to be able to gather and also to assess really our most accurate mindset of the community, I guess is one way of putting it. And so the numbers do concern me, and I'm wondering, is there an opportunity in the longer term milestones that have been established for this overall process for it to be extended somewhat without it interrupting the types of accomplishments that you have set out and that the timeline overall, the major milestones?
Yeah, so as we said, the survey was designed specifically to get feedback for the vision and goals, which we'll be preparing to present at the October forum. Mm-hmm. So really we need to have the information from the survey by before that, and by the date that we set for the deadline for the survey, just so that we can develop those vision and goals based on the community feedback. There will be opportunity for more engagement in later phases of the project, more focus groups, and so there's ways to keep engaging with the community. That's a really important part of the process throughout. And Alana has put together an amazing list of ways to do more outreach that I think you guys can really tackle, and we're hoping that will help get a lot of responses.
Okay, and I do appreciate it's a bit more assuring to hear that, that we will have these other opportunities, but I will absolutely make it a point to kind of hit the heels of a number of friends and family and neighbors to let's get on the stick before the 9th. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll also just add really quickly, Braintree is not unlike any other community in terms of the percentage of people who participate in something like this survey. And so while it is a low percentage of the Braintree community, it's pretty constant or consistent with other communities. About 1% takes a survey or something of contributes in some way or shape or form. So I don't want you to feel like
Okay.
Braintree is performing poorly as compared to other communities. People a lot of times don't know about engagement or don't think it's for them or don't feel like they have something to say or aren't really sure how to contribute. And so we try to design our surveys in a way that's really, or we hope is really straightforward and that folks can answer. And all of the questions are technically optional. So if there's something that they don't feel like they have enough information to contribute on, they can skip that question as well, which might be reassuring for folks.
Okay. Well, thank you, Elena. Appreciate it.
Raina.
You know, it seems to me a good time to check back in to see how we're doing, you know, in October. And then let's see where we're at and see if it looks like we're still missing our mark or if, you know, we need to think about, I mean, it seemed a little premature yet still. But yeah, I agree with you. I would like to see more response. But it sounds like looking at the schedule, let's see where we're at like in October.
Maybe we find that certain activities generate more. Like I found, like meeting in the box, it was packed, right? Like so, it like depends on the group, right?
But, you know, there were like 25 people, and she was going to scan and send it to Melissa, so you'll know that. But, you know, you wouldn't know that just by looking at the notes.
Okay.
One thing that I would like to add that I don't think I added to the Google Sheet is that I run the Braintree Beer Garden every Saturday in September and October. So we plan on having a table there whenever on Saturday so that people can participate, and a couple hundred people come, and it's 99.9% Braintree residents, including a lot of families. So it can help with that younger demographic also.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I'll also add don't knock yourself out. Think about, even just on my drive here, there was probably 20 or so families in the Hollis Elementary School playground. And so, you know, if you're out for a walk, think about maybe checking in with your neighbors or, you know, just that personal invitation for a lot of folks really does it for them. So just another option.
But, you know, oh, sorry. You know, related, I mean, these kinds of events that we're talking about, they can't take the survey. I mean, it would be nice to have something more short and concise, or like notes, write down your top 5 things that they can do in 5 minutes and leave with us at an event where they're just going to be there for a little while. You know, you can't, I mean, just focusing so much on the survey makes me a little worried.
Well,
You know what I mean?
Could
You
we have a QR code so they can pull it up on their phone and like just the short survey? So if we have that, they
Yeah,
can just pull it right up and like as you're talking, they can talk.
Right,
and
something
just submit.
short and quick that, you know, you could do at an event like the one you're talking about.
Okay.
One thing that I agree with Raina on is the capturing people in that moment to take the full survey probably is going to be not high, but the amount of people who are, take the beer garden for example, the amount of people who are there who probably have no idea this is even a thing, it alerts them that it's a thing, and then they can go home and take it. So I think that hopefully not is all lost just because people don't take the survey like in that moment between their first and second beer, that they are alerted to it, and then when they go home or they tell their neighbors about it, and it just reminds them, hopefully, that that's the plan. But I totally understand that.
All things.
Yes.
Another quick option, if you're in a space that has internet access, is the crowd mapping to get folks. That takes, as long as they, you know, have something kind of loaded in their mind, you know, less than a couple minutes just to fill out. You just put in your name and your, I think, contact information, and then just you pin a point and make a comment on it. So that might be an opportunity at something like a table, potentially to have, you know, a computer or have a QR code and have people pull it up. If they're walking around the farmer's market, they'd be quick to say, this is a spot where I think something should change, or I love this about this place.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, thank you. And just as a note, the next dates, September 22nd And October 15th is the community forum, which is 1 o'clock or?
Well, excuse me, we'll have more information on that. We're still trying to find a space for that. Cahill's going to be used for voting, so it'll be set up for voting, so we can't use this space. So we're working with facilities and others to try and identify a more public venue that can hold everyone.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. All right, so we'll, to be determined where that is. Online questions? Oh, I haven't seen anything, no. So no comments or questions online. Erin?
And related to one of the first bullet points, and it was the existing conditions report. I know the last time we talked about that, maybe a month or two ago, that was in the process. Is that moving to a place where it's available for public? Like, what is the process with the existing conditions report?
Yes. Hello, okay, there we go. So the process for the existing conditions report, we are actually waiting still on Melissa's comments. The original plan was to already have it out for public comment. We have addressed all of your comments already. They're in the report, but it's still being worked on because we're waiting on that last batch of comments. And then I think there was a little bit of a mix-up on the dates on that for when we'd get that from her. But we're hoping to have them back from her and then a quick turnaround time, and then it'll be out for public comment.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, is there anything else? This could be a quick meeting. Okay, somebody in? Oh, Kay?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, meeting adjourned, thank you.